This video is going to demonstrate some different techniques when it comes to breaking down images for you to draw them a little bit easier. So I have different images that we're going to work through. So here we have a cat, and it's a very organic shape. So one of the methods that is just taking and finding your simple shapes within the object. So I like to start with the biggest shape first, and really the biggest shape is the cat's body. So I'm outlining the basic shape of the cat's body. So this shape I need to draw, and I'm going to draw it right next to it. Now, while it does look like a circle, there are things about it that are not circular. There are very specific curves, and so I'm really trying to mimic all those specific curves and the same size over here in the one I'm making. So I'm not going to just draw a really quick basic circle because that's not what I see. I'm trying to draw exactly the shape that I see. All right, so once I get that done, now I know where my cat's going to exist. I can look at my next biggest shape, which for me is going to be the head. So I'm going to outline the shape of the head, and then I want to place that. Now I want to be very particular whenever I'm placing this circular shape because I want it to be the same size. Like I want this circle to be proportionate to this circle, and I want the same thing to be over here. Otherwise my cat's head isn't going to be the right size and it's going to throw my drawing off. So I'm being very particular when I draw this circle shape and trying to pay attention to the spacing here in between those two lines and the spacing here, and trying to mimic that on mine. All right, so now I can start looking at the body and trying to put some legs in. So I do see a distinct line here and I see a line here, and that line is going to make that leg. So I'm going to put those in, and I'm really just kind of ignoring the paws right now. I'm going to put the paws in next. So carefully placing, I'm really trying to pay attention to where things are at so they look the same. All right, so the paws are really just kind of like ovals, and they're overlapping or intersecting with the bottom of the body. So once I get those ovals in, then I can erase that intersecting line. So this is really just a breaking down the object into simple shapes method to make things a little bit easier when we start drawing them. All right, so before I move on to the head, I have a little back paw here, and I want to place the tail. So I'm going to outline those. I outline really just so I can see it a little bit better. My tail might overlap my other cat, and that's okay. All right, so one of the methods that a lot of cartoonists will use is creating some guidelines for our facial features so everything is aligned. So then we don't have an eye that's too low or too high and a nose that isn't aligned with the eyes. So I drew some guidelines, and they're kind of like an axis. Like this is the vertical and this is the horizontal axis. And I'm going to place those guidelines in first before I even start drawing my facial features. I find this helps with placement. Now I'm drawing them very lightly so I can erase them later. I obviously don't want the guidelines to be permanent. So now I'm going to carefully look at the face and start placing a little bit of the nose, which is kind of like a triangle. The face is turned slightly to the side, so some of my stuff is going on my face is going to reflect that. So this side is probably going to look a little bit smaller than this side just because of foreshortening. All right, so I have a little bit of the face put in. Now my technique for eyes is this. Try not to draw a whole eye before you have the other eye placed. What I've noticed is that beginning artists will draw one eye perfectly and then they struggle with the other eye before you even have a shape placed for the other eye. So I like to place the shape of the eye before I even start adding details for both the eyes. So I might add a circle here, which is I feel like is accurate. And then I'm going to add the other eye before I even start putting all the details in. And what I do is kind of look and say, do those look like they go together? Does it look like it's positioned right? And if not, I will make some adjustments. It's easier to make adjustments now before I start adding all the details. So it's impossible to draw two things at once, but this is kind of a method of drawing two things at once in a way to kind of help get things placed. All right, now my cat really needs some ears, so I'm going to add some ears. And I'm going to pay attention to the size of my ears. How far up does it come off? Now, I don't think I drew that in quite the right direction. So I'm going to erase that and try again. So this ear is definitely smaller than this ear in this picture, but we know that the ears are about the same size in real life. All right, so to make my cat look a little less scary, I'm going to erase some of these. I don't know, the eyes probably are a little bit scary, but that's okay. All right, so that's just the basic method of breaking things down using simple shapes. I want to show you the second one, which is another method. And so I'm going to bring in the airplane. And I'm also going to use a ruler and again a pencil. Now I'm going to trace over some of these things so we can see them a little bit better. The photocopy didn't necessarily do a very good job, so now I can see it a little bit better. All right, so with the container method, we're going to use our ruler and we're going to create a straight line container that encompasses our object. But notice when I draw my straight lines that the lines are actually touching the object. So they're as tight to that object as I can possibly get them. Now this last one, I'm actually going to cut off my tail because I feel like I could easily place my tail even though it's cut off after I start drawing it. So here we have a four-sided container that is so simple. It's going to be a lot easier to draw than that airplane itself. So what I can do is I can even use my ruler. I can align it to an edge and slide it over and draw a line that I think is approximately that size. Now I could use my ruler and measure. I could also use my pencil as a measuring device. If I put the point at the end of my line and then put my fingers now I can take that over and compare. All right, they are approximately the same size, so that works. All right, now I'm going to do this top long line. I like to align my ruler to the line I'm going to draw and just slide it so then it's going in the right angle. All right, all right, so the way I drew it, part of my thing is going to be off, but that's okay. Part of my wing is going to be off the page. I have some spatial problems here. Now, if you take the time to get this right, it's going to make drawing your airplane so much easier. Okay, so trying to get your container the same size is going to make this whole process streamline. Now, if you don't, if this is not the same as this, that is really going to mess up your drawing. Okay, so take the time to get this right before you even start drawing, so then you know that it's going to be the same. So my next part is putting this the body of the airplane in my container, okay? Now, I know that the nose starts over here because that's in the corner, but I need to kind of pinpoint where the tail is. So my tail here, that's approximately halfway, maybe a little bit less. Now, it's really hard to tell because this is right off the edge where halfway is, but I'm going to approximate it right there. So my tail is going to be there. So the end of the airplane is going to be a little bit beyond that. So now I kind of have a destination. I know where I'm going with this airplane. So it's good to have some markers, little pinpoints of where we're headed with our shape. So it's right. All right, so that'll be the body of my airplane. And notice it does look about the same size. It's going in the same angle, the same direction. So make sure that you're checking that as you're drawing. All right, so now I can add some wings. I feel like this wing is the easiest wing. So why not go ahead and knock that out? Again, I'm looking for the same angle, same size, same everything. All right, trying to place this one is a little bit difficult. You can kind of see where it is in relation to the tail, so something like that. So probably right around there. And it kind of swoops. Now this one is mine on my page cuts off. So the very end of my wing is not going to be on the paper. It might take you a couple times to get it right, and then you just erase what you don't want. All right, so I have the wing. I'm going to leave this for later because I feel like that's the most difficult part. So let's look at we can add the tail. And again, this extends out of our container because we purposely cut it off just to make our lives easier. And then I can add the two wings that are on the tail. All right, so let's look at this cylinder. So it's almost like if we could draw a garbage can that's attached to our wing, that's kind of what it is. So I'm going to draw an ellipse and then another ellipse inside of it for this opening. And then the barrel part kind of goes back, something like that. All right, and I can start adding windows. Now I like, for all these windows that are right here, I like to put a line so I can keep them kind of in a row where they need to be. Now one thing to remember is they're bigger up front, and then as they go back they're going to get smaller and they're going to get closer together. All right. So now my airplane is accurately proportioned. So those are two different methods. I would call this the container method. And then I call this one the simple shape method. So I want you to go ahead and try it. Now there's one last picture that you're going to have to do, and this is going to be the little pig, and you're going to decide which method to use. You can choose either method. You can either choose the container method, or you can try the simple shape method, but whatever you do, pick it and try it on the pig.